So earlier I was on my way to the bread roll shop because I was getting hungry and I wanted a bread roll. And I went over to the lady at the counter and I was like, all right, could I get one bread roll, please? And she was like, oh, sure, one coming up. And then she was like, oh, this could be your last bread roll. And I was like, why, what's going on? And she was like, oh, the shop's closing down in next week. And I was like, it's closing down, why? Y'all make the best bread rolls in town. How are y'all gonna close down? And she was like, oh, a lot of people wanna sell bread rolls and all the, and we're just not competing, our prices are too high, and like we don't have like a toaster like these other companies, and we don't have like these billboards and like really eye-catching marketing materials for our product, and so we're just getting outrun by our competitors. And and I was like, oh, sure, I'm sure that I could help you. Could you like introduce me to the team real quick, and maybe I could help you out with whatever's wrong with this company? And so I was introduced to the team, and there was this girl and this guy, and like the girl was like responsible for like talking to the customers, and the guy was responsible for the girl was responsible for interacting with the customers, and the guy was responsible for advertising the company online and billboard advertising. And so the owner let me talk to them, and I was like, and I talked to the girl first. I was like, oh, so I heard that you're the one talking to these customers. And she was like, oh yeah, and she was like, oh, a lot of these customers, they're like really ungrateful, they're just like comparing us to like all these other companies and just like basically spitting on our brand and stuff. And I was like, all right, what do they say about your competitors? And she was like, oh, they say that the food tastes exactly the same. And I was like, okay, the food tastes exactly the same, so why are they choosing your competitors over you? And she was like, I don't know, they were saying something about how the service staff was like really rude. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So the food tastes the same, but they're choosing the competitors because they think you're rude to them. And she was like, yeah, they're completely crazy, I bend over backwards for these customers, getting them a really fancy meal, and they just take it and spit in my face and go to our competitors. And I didn't even do anything wrong. I don't know how to keep these customers. And I was like, all right, so why do you think that these customers think that you're rude? And she was like, no reason. And I was like, come on, I'm not gonna criticize you, just you can tell me. And she was like, okay, so one of these customers was going off about how, you know, his grandpa died. And I was like, wow, their grandpa died. What did you say? And she was like, oh, I just asked them if they wanted chili on their bread roll. And I was like, so they tell you that their grandpa died, and you just asked them if they want chili on their bread roll. And she was like, yeah, what's the big deal? I'm trying to do my job right. I'm trying to see if they want chili on their bread roll. What's the problem with that? And I was like, oh, there's no problem with that. Your question makes perfect sense. But don't you think that someone would want you to be concerned about their grandpa? And she was like, I don't know what difference it makes. I mean, our competitors are doing the exact same thing that we're doing. They're not. And I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, let me tell you this story. I was going to this other bread roll shop, and so I went to the other bread roll shop and I asked him if I could have a bread roll, please. And, you know, they started making the bread roll, but they noticed that, like, I was kind of reserved and, like, you know, I wasn't, like, speaking confidently. And I was just, like, trying to get my bread roll and get out. And, like, this didn't, like, suit their, like, service model, you know, about just throwing food at people and taking their money. This didn't suit their business model. And so they tried to add, like, added value to the service. And so bro, so she got her daughter out, bro, and her daughter actually provides introverted men with, like, advice on, like, how to be confident around women. And so, like, what I wanted was, like, a bread roll, but what I ended up getting was, like, this really nice girl who provided dating advice for introverted men. And she was, and so the girl I was talking to at the other bread roll shop, she was like, so what's the point of this story? And I was like, well, I could have went to this other bread roll shop where they're providing more to their customers than just bread rolls, but I didn't. I chose to come to this shop. And she was like, why? And I was like, because I knew you would be here. And she was like, what do you mean? Why would you go to this bread roll shop just because I'm here? And I was like, because I want to apply what I learned from this other girl. And she was like, if she means that much to you, then why don't you just go to her? And I was like, because the advice she gives me means nothing if I can't apply it to the girl that I really like. And bro, this story moved her so much that she gave me a chance. And bro, we were, like, going on dates once a week, and with every date I feel like her love for me grew. It grew so strong. until like a date once a week just wasn't enough for her. And it got to a point where she knew that she wanted to spend forever with me. And so here we are. Here we are engaged. We're planning out our wedding together, you know. We're inviting people. We got like, you know, a band gonna show up for the wedding. I bought her a $10,000 ring. And we're gonna have the best wedding ever, you know. We're gonna invite the family, friends, and there's gonna be a lot of dancing, a lot of music, and a lot of vows to spend forever together. And it's all because I went to that bread roll shop and I knew that she had much more to offer me than just a bread roll, boys. So remember, boys, take any opportunity you have to find your wife, boys, because sometimes you come for the bread roll, but what you get in the end is something so much more than that, boys. And so you need to take that bread roll knowing that the potential opportunities that bread roll could give you across your entire lifetime could be so much more than that. Like me coming for the bread roll and getting a fiance 2 years later. And so the moral of this video is take any opportunity you can get, because that small opportunity could lead to something so much greater, boys. And that's all I got for the video. Remember to subscribe, boys, because I want to keep supporting y'all in this journey of self-improvement and self-discovery. And that's all I got. Goodbye.